All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a really disturbing story, one that comes from a very dark chapter in recent European history, the Siege of Sarajevo. But, and this is the key thing, this is not just a history lesson. We're actually breaking down a brand new investigation into these absolutely shocking allegations of what are being called human safaris.
So what in the world were the Sarajevo human safaris? I mean, what does that term even mean? Well, that's the central question we're going to tackle in this explainer. We're going to unpack exactly what's being alleged, why it's all coming out now, and what this could all mean for justice, 3 decades later.
Right, so first up, a modern war crimes probe. And look, the whole reason we're talking about this today is because a case that's been cold for decades has suddenly become very, very active. Let's dig into the breaking news that really threw this story back into the international spotlight.
And here it is, the big development. In November of 2025, Italian prosecutors, specifically in Milan, opened a formal inquiry. So you see, this isn't just media chatter or speculation anymore. This is a real, official, legal process. And that's the crucial thing to understand here. This is now an active investigation into potential war crimes.
Okay, so how did we even get here? I mean, we're talking about a 30-year gap. This timeline really helps lay it all out. So it starts back in the 1990s, right, during the siege of Sarajevo itself. Then, jump forward to 2022. A documentary called Sarajevo Safari comes out, and it just blows the lid off these allegations for a much wider audience. And that film, plus some other incredible reporting, is what leads directly to a legal complaint being filed in 2025. And that complaint, that's what finally pulled the trigger on this official investigation in Milan.
Okay, so now we know why this is all happening now. So let's get to the absolute core of it. What is the shocking allegation that's at the heart of the whole investigation?
The term itself is just horrifying, a human safari. So here's what it means. It's the allegation that really wealthy foreigners, people from Italy and other Western countries, paid huge amounts of money for what? For the chance to be taken to sniper nests run by Serbian militias and literally shoot at civilians who are trapped in the city below.
And this wasn't just some random chaotic thing. The complaint alleges there was a whole logistical path. It suggests these were organized trips. Testimony actually describes a route, like a dark travel itinerary, starting in Trieste, Italy, going through Belgrade, Serbia, and ending up at these Serbian militia-controlled sniper positions overlooking Sarajevo. And that's where these tourists, for lack of a better word, were supposedly handed a rifle.
All right, so unpacking the evidence, because obviously a formal investigation like this can't just run on rumors. So the big question is, what are the prosecutors in Milan actually working with? What's the basis for all this?
Well, it's not just one thing, and that's what's so compelling. The investigation is really built on a whole collection of sources. You've got that 2022 documentary, Sarajevo Safari. You have the formal legal complaint filed by an Italian writer. You have years and years of work by investigative journalists who just wouldn't let this go. And maybe most importantly, you have testimony from former intelligence officers and interviews with actual witnesses. It's really the combined weight of all of this that finally forced a legal response.
And this quote, which comes from the reporting, it just cuts right to the absolute horror of it. Sarajevo civilians being hunted like in Hollywood films. That really says it all, doesn't it? The allegation isn't just about murder, it's about turning the real-life suffering of a city under siege into some kind of grotesque, twisted entertainment.
And that, of course, brings us to the most devastating part of this entire story, the human cost, the victims. Because these allegations, they paint a picture of just unimaginable cruelty, a world where human lives were allegedly treated as nothing more than commodities.
Now, according to testimony that's included in the complaint, it gets even worse. And I really need to stress, these are unproven allegations that are now being investigated, but some of the sources claim there was a kind of price list. And on that list, the alleged fee to shoot an adult was high, but the fee to shoot a child was the highest of all.
And the price tag for one of these alleged trips? We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. That number is really important because it tells you two things. One, the clientele had to be incredibly wealthy. And two, this was likely a lucrative, organized operation, not just some rogue one-off deal.
So this brings us to a decades-long wait for justice. For the people of Sarajevo, for the survivors and the families of the thousands and thousands of people killed during that siege, these kinds of stories and rumors, they aren't totally new. But the possibility of actual accountability, that is.
So for survivors and victims' families, this probe reopens a path toward accountability. And that's really why this matters so much right now. For so many years, it just seemed like this horrific chapter was closed, and that the people who did this would face zero consequences. But this investigation, for the very first time, it offers a real, tangible glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, some measure of justice is still possible. It's like it's cracking open a door that so many thought was locked forever.
All right, so what happens next? The probe is officially open, but what can we actually expect from here? It's really important to understand where we are in the legal process.
And we need to make a really important distinction here. An allegation versus a conviction. They are not the same thing. An allegation is what we have right now. It's a formal accusation that prosecutors think is serious enough to investigate. A conviction, on the other hand, is a legal judgment of guilt, and that only happens after a full trial. And to be crystal clear, this case is at the absolute beginning of that long road.
And it's also worth pointing out, and this is totally standard for an investigation at this early stage, that prosecutors haven't publicly named any suspects. Right now, their job is to focus on gathering evidence to figure out if charges can be brought, and if so, against whom.
Which really leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful question. After 30 long years, can justice for Sarajevo's victims finally be served? I mean, this investigation has cracked open a door that was slammed shut for 3 decades. And that, in itself, is a testament to the persistence of journalists, of activists, and of the survivors who never gave up. But whether this path actually leads to convictions and to some final measure of accountability for the people of Sarajevo, well, that's the question that remains to be answered.